Oh hi, I'm Mr. Dixon. You may remember me from such great documentaries as Basketball Stacks and How to Do Them Properly and Great Fashion Disasters of the 21st Century. Today, I'm here to talk to you about feminism. So what is feminism? Feminism is the belief that all women should have the same rights as men: social, sexual, intellectual, political, and economic. According to scholars, it can be divided. According to most scholars, feminism can be divided into three main historical categories. The first is what they call the first wave, and then the second wave. After that, the third wave. So what do these waves entail? Come with me for a closer look at feminism and its three waves. The first wave feminist refers to a period of feminist activity during the 19th century and early 20th century in the United Kingdom and the United States. Originally, it focused on the promotion of equal contact and property rights for women and the opposition to chattel marriage, that is arranged marriages, and ownership of married women and their children by their husbands. However, by the end of the 19th century, activism focused primarily on gaining political power, particularly the right for women to vote. This is called suffrage. In Britain, the suffragettes, and more effectively the suffragists, campaigned for women's votes, and in 1918 they gained the right to vote. Any women over the age of 30 who owned houses were allowed to vote. Then, in 1928, this was extended to all women over the age of 21. This ended the first wave of feminism. When the first wave concentrated on the right for women to vote, the second wave, in the 1960s through the 1980s, focused on discrimination, particularly in the workplace. This phase became known as women's liberation and was first used as a term in 1964 in the United States. The Women's Liberation Front appeared in magazines such as Ramparts in the 1960s and began an entire movement of women's liberation for equality in the workforce. It created a concept called the feminine mystique, which criticized the idea that women could only find fulfillment through childbearing and homemaking. And it encouraged women to go out into the workforce. Although feminism in its second wave began in the 1960s, its genesis was in the Second World War. When the men went to fight in the war, the factories were left without workers, and so women were placed into the workforce. After this time, women began to assert their rights in the workplace. The third wave of feminism began in the late 1980s to beginnings of the 1990s, up until the present. In this form of feminism, there were two arguments. One, that women and men are fundamentally different, and the other, that women and men are essentially the same. So, what does feminism have to do with religious education and sacred scripture? Come, let's find out. What, are you coming? It's this way. Come on. Come on. This way. Come on. This way. Come on. Let's go. feminist theology examines the scriptures from the point of view of feminism. So it re-evaluates the theology, the significance of the symbolism, the characters, the interaction of the characters, and the message from a feminist point of view. Some of the goals of feminist theology include increasing the role of women among the clergy and religious authorities, reinterpreting male-dominated imagery and language about God, determining women's place in relation to carer and motherhood, and studying images of women in the religious sacred texts. Christian feminism, in particular, is a branch of feminist theology which seeks to interpret and understand Christianity in the light of equality of men and women. Because this equality has historically been ignored, Christian feminists believe their contributions are necessary for a complete understanding of Christianity. While there is no standard set of beliefs among Christian feminists, most agree that God does not discriminate on the basis of biological determination. I totally agree with you, Father, on that theological issue. Absolutely. And God bless you too. Oh, hi. Just on the phone to a priest. Some of the Bible pieces that may be misinterpreted and need to be re-examined by feminist theologians would be books such as the Book of Genesis and the treatment of women. In particular, the idea that Eve is the cause of original sin and the cause of pain and suffering in this world. Others, such as the treatment of Mary Magdalene in the Gospels, the misinterpretation of her being a prostitute, and other characters such as Martha, and even Mary, the Mother of God. Feminism and feminist theology looks to interpret sacred scripture in the 21st century in the eyes of an understanding that women and men are equal, and that the Gospels were written in an age where men were the dominant people, and women's role was in the household. Well, that's all for our brief introduction to feminism. Of course, we'll go more in depth in the classroom as to what feminism is all about and how we can interpret scripture from a feminist perspective. Until next time, I'm Mr. Dixon.